Hey everybody, Gnome here, server X160, the best in the West, representing Blackgate Asylum. Still getting new there. I'm never in Guild Conquest, so it's not like I'm anything special in the guild, but I appreciate you checking out the stream here, and I have a special guest with me. I have big man Romulus. This guy's been around, geez, since way before I was playing, and hey man, thanks for coming on the program.
I'm happy to be here. So nice to work with the fellow content creators over here at Bloodlines.
Yeah. And Romulus also does a ton of videos for the game. He is a great editor. He's got great content. So if y'all haven't checked out his work, make sure you put your eyes on it, especially high-end players, because he is definitely high-end. So, but we're going to get into a few questions with him, kind of tap his brain for some insight, maybe get some tips and tricks that some people that haven't quite reached his skill level are at. So with that, man, let me go ahead and dive into this. Romulus, like, what got you into Bloodline? And then whenever you got into Bloodline, what were some of the aspects of the game that you really enjoyed?
Well, I was done playing Star Wars Galaxy Heroes, another hero collection game, and in that game, the Alliance versus Alliance, kind of like PvP based. So when I quit, I picked up this game just messing around. I pulled an Ignis right out of the gate, and I really liked how VOC played out. I liked the fact that I was moving around a map and actively fighting other teams and other players, as opposed to just clicking on a stationary map and picking a team to fight, and then just randomly hitting buttons on trying to win. So I just preferred the fact that grinding felt like it made the difference when I first started playing.
Nice. And in Valley, when it first started, was it the same exact setup that we're dealing with now? The three teams, and you can move your teams around so you can keep using your team one?
Yes, absolutely. And some people didn't comprehend that aspect of the game. I tried to explain it to many people and they didn't get it. I just kept playing and climbing and playing and climbing. And it was such a bigger community back then. It was a lot more fun playing Valley because at least half the people were really trying to win. And before the game got a little uh, tedious and they brought out Conquest, multiple players getting over a million merit in OC. You couldn't wait to use all your action points.
And every time you logged into the game, the first thing you would do would normally be go into Valley and use some of those action points?
First thing I do immediately. And
Nice. And then,
all the big players knew each other. We kind of respected one another, and there was no real conquest yet. So you made your bones by playing well in VOC.
and did they have fair matchmaking when you started? Were most of the opponents in Valley around your level, so as long as you played strategically, you could compete?
I'd say so. When I made it to the top lobby, Geo was the biggest player and he was very beatable by everybody that was up in there. Like, you couldn't kill him every time, but you had at least a 40% chance of beat. And I'll take 40% against the biggest player in the.
Nice. And so, do you remember what your initial team was in Valley? You had mentioned that you pulled an Ignis, and I'm guessing you're talking about the female. What other
Oh yeah,
champs were you playing with at that time? Was Devela even out at that point?
before Davala, I was running a Fulgur, Ignis. Oh, who are my tanks? The female Lionstone, of course,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then the other two spots, I guess, were like the flex, where you could put in, the spin to win, the Orc Lady, or I had the female Doombringer I used. That spot was open. You could make some changes there, but that wasn't. But the real meta for me was Ignis and Fulgur.
Nice. And then a question for you. Did people use the majority of the beginning classes and champions? Like, for example, did many people use Mel Yiv? Did anyone use any of the Sally Horn or Karg? Or was it normally pretty meta with what you just mentioned?
It's pretty much meta what I'm mentioning. Some people use the Asin or the Tidestorm for different. Those could be different types of meta teams. You needed to have Ignis, and Fulgur really was the best choice because it would do a basic attack, pop a shield, and then stun you. Whoever was
Ah,
across from him would get a stun.
and you're talking
So
about the Mel Folger, right?
yes,
So I started playing,
some
I think,
people,
when he was phasing out.
but he phased out probably when the Bloom showed up. Yeah, once they nerfed the Davala and flushed down the toilet.
And were you one of the first people to have the Davala? Like, did that give you a significant advantage over other players?
This is where it gets funny because Davala comes out. There's another player named Mystic who gets him right away, and he's absolutely decimated. And the Davala came out when I just hit the top valley for the first time.
Hmm.
All the whales unlocked them immediately. And then I ended up having to go out of pocket to get this champion because it's so OP. So I did get it on the first run. I did pick him up or pick her up. And then that's when the vigor issue really kicked in because that's when the vigor trick was out there.
Yeah.
Where if you had a whole lot of common champions, you would ping pong the vigor back and forth to get like double or triple.
Oh.
But now people were juicing up their Davalas to 60 vigor. And back then, 60 vigor was one guy took the vigor all the way up to 120 before there was 120. It just didn't, it just said 100, but that's skyrocketed way over.
And didn't Goat send out some kind of notification about that? Was that called vigor farming?
Goat, Goat didn't handle this correctly at all. Someone made a video showing how this glitch worked, and that player took his Daval up to level 80, and they punished his account. Right? They undid the vigor, they undid it, and they didn't give him back proper compensation. He can no longer do Dungeon of Descent because he now hit like a new high for high might his power, and it became too difficult. Geo took his up to 88. They didn't do anything about it. But right then and there, you can kind of see how favor and treat who spend a lot of money differently.
Ah,
And then
interesting.
that's when there was a lot of grumblings because a lot of players are smart. You did the vigor trick up to 6 on the Davala and you stopped. Some people took it up to 80, 90. They had their accounts and it got tagged.
Ah,
No longer
and
viable to play the game.
and you had mentioned Dungeon Descent, and Dungeon Descent would scale with your team might and where you were in the campaign, wasn't that right?
Correct. And you couldn't go back. Right. So once you hit that peak, they took away your Davala. The game still registered you at that peak. No longer
Oh,
have an easy time of Dungeon of.
oh, what a nightmare, man. That sounds miserable.
And so and they do 5 to 10 players. Again, they didn't nail the ones that were whales that spent a lot of money.
Of course not. They don't want to penalize their revenue source. My goat never does any of that. And so
So they don't.
with Dungeon Descent, if they were essentially, it's one of those really old modes that's been around forever. Would you have any suggestions or any ideas how they could make it better and more modern?
I don't know. I know this. I still do Dungeon of Descent on my main account. It's the only place you can consistently get intimacy, get your clan traits up on many of your champs.
Yes.
Outside of that, I try to get it done as fast as I can. I don't like doing it, but when you need the intimacy, It's the best place to get it still.
You just have to do it. And so it's almost one of those really tedious things, kind of like the expeditions. Whenever, like, I just feel that if GOAT would put a little bit of resources, maybe hire somebody who just goes through these old things that we have and just updates them a little bit, I think that it would be a hit with all the player base. But the problem is, I don't think GOAT sees any profitability in that, so they're not even touching it. Like, for example, with the expeditions, they're ridiculous too because everyone can clear all four of the bosses that you have to clear in it, and so people can get the same amount of points at the end of the day. And I'm kind of showing here on the game, sorry, down here the little book. So as people get their ranking on either the Lich or the strong armored fella, their total damage can be the same. So what I was thinking is the expedition could be a great place where people can start experimenting with new champions, learning their abilities, and so maybe making these bosses unkillable. And how you get rewarded is how much total damage you do to them. Would that
I would
interest?
love.
Do you do the
I,
expedition every time it resets?
I've done on Romulus. I don't think I've ever. I think I might have missed once the expedition since I started playing. I really don't miss dailies. What you're suggesting, I wish they would do with the actual guild bosses in the town hall because people are killing them right now. And then guild mates aren't able to get their quests done. The raid bosses. I wish they would do that with the raid bosses.
Right, right. Oh, and yeah, I see what you're saying. It would make complete sense so that people are rewarded based on overall damage, making these bosses like infinite to kill or something, or where you could
Right.
choose a difficulty. So instead of maybe if it's a guild that's a smaller guild, they are this challenging where they're at now. But if you're an advanced guild like D53, then you could put it into like a stronger mode where the rewards are better. It's hard. People can go hard with their whole main teams. And then people could actually see some synergies between some player or some champions as well. So that what you're mentioning, the raid bosses, is definitely something I think people would like to see revamped. Dungeon Descent, even though it's still used, it's so tedious. It's so annoying. And I know the Go games, the more clicks they get, the better. But if they just updated a few of these things, it would be really nice. So
If
another
you
question I have for you is the arena system. Do you
worthless.
strategically play the arena system, or do you
Uh,
just use your five attacks and leave it alone?
I open up the 3 accounts that I play, and then I quickly pick the easy fight and get it over with if possible. If I
Ah,
attack mid-sized players on my server that aren't in my guild, they'll complain to me and they'll say, "Why are you picking on me?" I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to deal with it. The rewards you get from this arena aren't worth it. There's no one I can really test my team against on my server. I guess I could test against Ghost Wolf a little bit, but since I control the Ghost Wolf account and I control the Palm account,
yeah.
I would just honestly rather use them in VOC and test out there.
I see what you're saying. The main issue with VOC, like Fierce Daughter is experiencing, and I feel that I'm experiencing, is I guess the general formula is the maximum might of your top five champions. And there are people like Powell who have figured out this and are able to get around it. But it's really annoying because people like myself, where I want to test teams, and Valley used to be the place where I could test them. Now I don't have that option. So one thing I really liked is during the Guardian events, they do the cross server arena. Did you like that aspect of it?
I think they should get rid of basic arena and make all the arena cross server,
And would
and
you
maybe give
do
them.
certain servers grouped together, or would you do all the servers in the arena?
I would do everybody together, and I would. And you ever notice how when you refresh, games never change? I think
Oh,
I have to get
it's
rid
a
of that.
nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Let people refresh, let people fight, let people climb up a ladder, and not everybody's going to make it to the top. You know, the 5 or 6 major accounts are going to be up there regardless.
Yep.
But at least you know where you stand in the pecking order of the game. You know, where you can looking and finding players, and hitting them, and climbing up the ladder. And it really tests your team's mettle against players your own size. 'Cause even if I take the ROM account, sometimes I can't really test in VOC. Is the Baroness account, the CEO account, they're huge. I can't kill them. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
even scratch them right now. So if they're sitting in a certain gate or a certain spot, I'm very limited on how I can enjoy that game mode because the power balance is so out of whack.
So by having a cross server arena, you would definitely be able to test your teams way more effectively, right?
It's going to be more fun because I can see the best player of another guild that's close to power, and I can just hit them. Laugh about it, and then hit me back, and message each other on Discord. Hey, try switching your team up, and let's.
Nice,
It would be more
nice.
fun and more interactive. As
And
it stands now, I'm just getting the battles done. People get their feelings hurt. Um, People get their feelings hurt if you take a tower away from them. The other day, I did about 400 marriages, and I asked somebody that was going for the marriage,
yeah,
and they sent me a message all pissed off at me, and I'm like, I wasn't even trying. I'm not even trying to win these towers. Throwing my account.
yeah.
So
I need to get my vigor up. I need to do some marriages. Like, don't get upset about that. And do you get these
but
messages frequently? Like people feel that you're stepping on their toes?
sometimes, yeah. This game, this game has a lot of crybabies. And you've seen the official Discord. People fighting over some of the dumbest things. I've seen people go to the mat fighting about is energetic better than honorable, and they get their feelings hurt when you disagree. It's like worse than politics. This conversation, I've seen it happen on 4 different servers. I saw Rage Panda 1 flip out on a guy fighting over what's better, steadfast or honorable, or steadfast and energetic, or just a lot of emotions behind some of these traits. But again, yeah, people who play this game, a good chunk of them are very sensitive. They get very angry very easily over the littlest thing. So,
And a
I'm sure
question back to
you've
the
seen it.
arena, real quick. Would you also change the rewards if it was cross server to try to make them a little bit more on point, or would you leave them relatively minuscule so it would actually encourage some of the higher people to test different teams and different champion compositions?
This is a tough one because I know right now the top players are not going to be there. If you make the rewards better, you're almost guaranteeing a small group of players are going to get the best stuff.
Exactly.
Little challenge. So I'm not sure how they should do the scenario. I already know who the strongest players are from OC and from Guild Conquest. I just think in the cross server, if they do have something or there are rewards in there, I think it should be based on participation. That you have to hit an individual goal with the max reward. Everyone has a chance to, based on their own size and scale, compensated.
So you
'Cause I
almost
think
get rewarded the better you do for yourself. So it's an independent reward as opposed to just giving the top of the ladder the best goodies.
I want to reward players that actually play the game and grind. I don't want to reward a lazy whale. I don't want to reward a casual player that complains is unfair. I want to reward players that log in, dailies, the events, participate in everything, are active in the community. Those are the players that I want to play with. Those
Ah,
are the
I'm
players that I
totally
think
on
should
board.
have the most potential to grow their account for free.
Okay, and then while we're here on the arena, what are your thoughts of their release of the Luxus tournament? And
It's
what
my
I mean
favorite
by
game mode,
that,
and I'm
oh, it's your
my
favorite?
favorite game mode. It's my favorite game mode, and I'm terrible at it.
Hey, you're doing pretty good. I think the last one you made it up there pretty high, didn't you?
Oh, I keep my butt kicked in the first round of the finals.
But the
of the
question
of the
are they
64.
putting you up against people that are dramatically stronger, like some of the top people every time?
Oh, it doesn't even matter who they put me up against. I feel like there's like a black cloud over my account, and I just nothing right ever happens. I move my teams around and I move them to the worst possible scenario. I leave them alone. The other guy moves his teams to the best possible matchup. He just can't catch a break in Luxus.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But you do enjoy it though, right? Do you make adjustments to your team based on the what is this called? The icon or whatever?
No, no, I don't. I don't. What I like about this specific game mode is you're forced to work with champions. Three. I like game modes, or I like games where they encourage you to grow your roster a little more evenly than like Boat, Ga- Boat Games is approaching this as like your five best champs and give them all the reasons. You know? But
Yeah,
to get a
I
champ
like that about
100,
Luxus too. I enjoy the three teams and I change them up throughout the tournament. I come in and I look at the matches actually. And I want to start adding that to future videos because there's some really good matches. And I love it when I can beat someone that's way stronger than me, and I also like it when someone's weaker than me and they beat me so I could see some of the weaknesses of my teams as well.
again, you're forced to work your roster and you're forced to do a little more theory crafting. And then in Conquest, where you're going to take your best team, that's the one you're going to speed around the map, one that you're going to, it's all the runes or most of the runes. And it's just kind of, I wish Go Games would encourage bigger rosters, different kind of game modes, force you to build out more champions, not just 15. We have all these different champs that come out, and you never use most of them because you don't have the money to put the vigor on them. You don't have the resources to get the runes above and beyond 7, which is where you need them.
Yeah,
Vigor cost is too high. The rune cost is too high. Sprite cost is also too high, but at least the sprites apply to all your.
that's true.
That's what I'd like to see.
So all your
New game
15
mode.
stars are nice and applied to, so you can actually use them.
Correct. Hey, look at your account right there. If you have no vigor on your Phoenix, how are you really going to use it properly?
Yeah, she's honestly pointless at this point. I can't do anything with her. And so
Even
I agree with you. I think that the champions are the best part of the game. Like, if you notice, not many people went with the male Serpentide. I think that this champion has amazing abilities, and especially used in conjunction with other champions. When they fixed the male Dawnbreaker, this guy has been one of my favorite champions since he came out. And so, I mean, even the male Lume has a utility with his active in the dispel for Volko or Lucky now. And so I really like what you're saying, the ability to, hey, let's plug and play some of these champions. In fact, GOAT could make a lot more money if they utilized more than just the 15. So I
but they won't
completely
though.
I agree with you. Oh yeah, they're all about the money, and it does
When you
make me
showed
really
when you
sad.
showed when you were on expeditions and you were talking about expeditions, what frustrates me is whenever you go to pick charm or the books or the chests. You ever notice how sometimes they'll just jump positions and then
Like
and that's like a glitch.
when you go to choose the three, basically.
Yeah, yeah, that's a glitch. And like, why is that glitch there? Why is that not fixed? Or you go to join a rally conquest and the whole screen starts flashing.
Yeah,
You're trying
why
to
is
move a
that even
team
happening?
and
You would think that they would put a little recognition into that.
fix that. I play fast. Like I don't like lag. It frustrates, especially when they introduce cards to conquest. If people are going to be traveling, 15 seconds in towers, I need the ability to move quickly. Sometimes you're trying to click a tower and it's not registering. You can't click your team, and then bang, you're caught flat-footed.
Yeah.
And it's like they're bringing out Guardian champions, and I'm like, why don't you fix the stuff that's laggy? Why don't you fix the sorting? You want me to reduce my roster, but for me to take a champion to 15 stars, it's so tedious. It's just
Yeah. You're completely right there, man. And hey, Rom, let's take another quick path real quick. I kind of want to direct us. Like, we'll get back to the different game modes and your thoughts on them, but I kind of want to do a little personal one here. What what is your current favorite champion? And then what is your overall favorite champion? Like, even if they're not viable in your current teams, but one that you really enjoyed.
okay. My favorite champ of all time in this game is the female Ignis. Like, I remember
Ooh.
a Tide Storm shooting her with the chain,
Yeah.
dragging her across the map. Then she does her alt while she's getting dragged. It was just so satisfying to see the little fireball come out of her hand and hit the Tide Storm while he's dragging you and knocking out the whole team. Bing, bing, bing.
Oh man, that was probably awesome. Did you ever get her skin that they introduced?
Oh, I did not.
Okay. And then do you feel that they could maybe if they made skins, I believe Rage Panda had made a video that he was telling Goat, hey, I'm giving you some advice how you can make money now and make your game better. And he was saying that he believes if they introduced more skins and they made it affordable, like $5 or $10, so everybody could get them, that they would make a lot more money overall than their little wheel that they have. You know what I'm saying? To get the skins. What are your thoughts on that?
That first, that wheel is such a rigged piece. I've never
Oh,
seen anyone get the skin early
I
unless
hate it. I
unless
hate it.
it's a scam. Oh, also, mark down the time I curse so they don't flag your video.
Do they flag it for that?
Dude, they take it. Half my work gets yanked because of cursing. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, that wheel, it's, it's like fixed. It's rigged. It's not a real RNG. Always get the skin after you spent the $60. Now, but I would only buy skins if they add stats, the champions, and I would only buy skins if they were on champions that are still relevant. And
Okay, I see so what
I
skins do
would,
you own on your main account?
I bought the water and sun, and I
Okay.
bought the bloom, and the bloom was still useful.
Oh man, I think the Bloom might be one of the coolest looking skins that they released too.
It's a shame he fell out of favor. But yeah, the new Bloodcraft seems to part bloom. I made it. I gave it 120 vigor, and hopefully it'll be on my main team and functioning well on the main.
Let
I do
me
miss him.
Oh, he's
He
one of
was
my
the answer
favorite
for
champions
Zavala.
of all time. He's one of my favorites. And I'm really sad that he's just not really strong enough to be feasible compared to some of the new releases. But let me mention something about Male Bloom that for anybody that's still using them. If you put Pure Heart on them, Pure Heart's a 20% chance to remove all debuffs per attack. So when Male Bloom uses his active, where he goes nuts and starts attacking really fast, and his clones use the same active, it's almost a guaranteed proc of Pure Heart. So, and that's something that I figured out from going against Powell, because Powell uses the double assassin team, and I would notice that his Bloom would ultimate before the 10-second mark every time, guaranteed. And like I got to the point where I attacked Powell just nonstop when he had us blocked into the fountain. And so that was a really interesting discovery because if you put a pure heart on him and you give him another way to gain energy quickly, like an ambitious or a focus or an energy regen, he had the potential to ult at about the 7 or 8 second mark after the battle began. And at one point, like you were saying, his ult was completely viable with three Phantoms all doing 350% of his strength. But compared to some of the newer ones, they're garbage. But speaking about some of the newer ones, what are your thoughts on the new Bloodcraft? Since we're talking about
So far,
Bloom.
I'm liking it. I'm liking it. It's supposed to have the same power as the Bloom, where it splits up. Hasn't really split up for me yet that I've noticed. But I was running the new Assassin as one of the flex champions on my main team, and this new Bloom was just better than that new Assassin. I put all the gear, or I took all the runes off, slapped it on him. I took all the vigor. It's very expensive to move the vigor off a Bloodcraft. So I
Oh,
took
oh yeah.
all the Bloodcraft off the Phoenix and put it on this new champ. And hopefully it's going to work out. I really haven't tested it that much because I've only been really playing with it for about 2 days. Not sure what the best traits are to put on her just yet, but I
And
think it's gonna. I
with,
think it's worth. I think it's worth vigor because putting vigor on a Bloodcraft is always risky.
mm-hmm. Well, with your, when you were saying the new assassin, were you talking about the female serpentine?
No, no, the one that came out before that, that wore the male wore that little Lao looking hat.
Oh, on my own. Oh man, I don't have him yet. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to getting him because I have a really sick synergy combination for him, and I think it's going to destroy. But yeah, they ran him right as I came back to the game, and I didn't understand the event, and so I didn't end up getting him, and they haven't offered him again, and it's driving me bonkers because I really like him a lot. Um, but
Oh,
let me
he
get
was.
back to the other question that we were going at. So you mentioned your kind of favorite champion, based on the past and everything, the female Ignis. So with the current meta and the current release champions, do you have a favorite there so far?
Well, I guess I would say. Well, I love the Kaivac, but I also love the one with the gas cloud. Keep forgetting her name.
Oh, female Dire?
Area issues the Dire.
And you said you really like female Kivak?
Yeah, the deer lady.
So I got really upset with the developers when female Kavak came out because according to her ultimate, it refreshes her active. Upon casting, immediately refresh the active skills cooldown. But even whenever I reported it on Discord to the bug report for it, they never fixed it. And the answer that they gave me was, well, she's already strong enough, so she doesn't really need to reset her active. But that really bothers me because the tooltip reads it immediately refreshes it. So one thing my response was, well, take that out of the tooltip then, because you're lying to people. It really bothers me. And so because of that, I gave up on her. And granted, I don't have the sprite buff that affects marksman. What's it
The
called?
Hunter's Ally.
Hunter's Ally. I
Hunter's Ally
I don't
is
have
a
that yet.
necessity. On the
Do you-
top end, that's a necessity.
you
Anytime you get
have
a
to
sprite
have
to
it.
fit.
Okay. And with Hunter's Ally, do you notice a significant difference when your marksman hit?
Oh yeah, it does. It just keeps dropping damage on everybody they're hitting. The reason why people like the Kaivac is because it hits three people in one shot.
And
That's
it
three people now that are
applies
going to
that
get damaged
Hunter's
every time.
Ally to all three people?
It, it applies to the marksman when a marksman hits multiple targets, they're all getting affected by it. So
Oh,
I
wow.
think I'm not quite. So the gas cloud is like a double whammy. Getting hit with the gas cloud and Hunter's allies getting dropped on them too. That's a lot
Oh,
of damage over time.
wow. I didn't even realize that. That might be one of the reasons why I'll go against the team and I'm thinking, man, I got this team. Like, my team is just built way better. And then the female Dire will just wipe my whole team. Most likely, they probably have Hunter's Ally then. Because if it's that significant of a difference, that That's interesting. And then here's something I don't like about it. For instance, let's talk about female Nereid real quick. When she's attacking with all three of her blades when she's using her ultimate, say you put Fearsome on her. Fearsome is the trait that has a 10% chance to stun the target when she attacks. Well, here's what ends up happening. She has one single target, even when she has all three blades. Well, when those three blades are hitting other enemies, instead of those blades having a 10% chance to stun those enemies, it gives her a 10% chance when those three blades hit to stun her target. And why this annoys me with Hunter's Ally is because you're telling me with female Kivak, when she throws 3 or 4 spears, it applies that to the targets that get hit with the spear. When in reality, she only has one target, like whoever she's attacking with her auto attacks, basically. And so, why this is really annoying is I think they have the same wording, but Goat Games changed Hunter's Mark so that it affects all the targets that the spear hits, when other things like Fearsome or Pure Heart or Hexproof only affect the target, even if you're hitting multiple enemies. So, for instance, if you have female Kivak and you have Hexproof on her and she throws her spears and hits multiple targets, those targets don't have the chance to get silenced. Only the one person that she's attacking will get 20% chance per spear that hits an enemy, basically. So, do you see what I'm saying about that? It's really frustrating because one tooltip might say the exact same thing, but how they implement that is wrong and different.
I got two things you might get a kick out of.
Okay.
There was a German player named Arabar,
Okay.
and he spoke English, and he obviously spoke German, and he would say the descriptions of what the skills do in German don't match up to what the skills say in English. So,
Oh,
and he
that
had
makes sense.
had, a, had an advantage because if there was ever a discrepancy, he was able to pick it out and theory craft something really great. Second thing
Ah.
is, I was told by some of the theory crafters that hexproof on the Dire, when the cloud hits, it's in play. So they could silence or stun or hexproof multiple targets on the gas cloud.
Oh, really? I'll have to play with that
Yes.
because, for instance, um, let me show. So I've put hexproof on multiple champions that have like area of effect attacks or they attack multiple people. But what I notice is when it procs, it's only on the target that they're auto attacking. So for instance, if you have a female Selphos and she has hexproof on her, if she throws her active and it hits 3 targets. And if one of those proc the 20%, it doesn't apply hexproof to the person that it hit. It applies it to the target that she's auto attacking. Do you see what I'm saying with that?
Oh, I hear you. And she was, by the way, she also with Hunter's Ally is very dangerous. She was the starter before Fire came out. Everybody was running her with Kivak.
Wait, does Hunter's ally applies to everybody she hits? So if she hits
Yep,
the whole enemy team with her ink, her passive, does that apply Hunter's ally to all of them?
pretty sure. But again, her basic attack does what? It's
Man.
3 people,
Yeah, her active does, yeah.
and so I think it's active, but I'm not quite sure on the wording. I just know that that was one of my starters up until the Dire came out.
But you would notice when she would throw her 3 bombs to paralyze and to do damage, and she does 300% strength to each enemy that she hits with it. You would notice the hunter's ally proc, and they would take a shoot ton of damage.
Yeah, they melt. Most of the fights on the top end real quick.
Well, I also
A lot of
noticed
people.
someone one-shot me, my team, with a female Selphos, and my team had a bunch of high constitution champions in it. And she shot one ink out, and it cleared everybody that it hit. And what I didn't understand was that it's only 460% of her strength. Now, I know for someone like you who has like 34 million strength, that's still a lot, but it just didn't make sense when I added everything up. And so it must be, yeah, Hunter's Ally is affecting, and that's why it kind of drives me a little bit nuts because their tooltips and descriptions definitely doesn't go hand in hand with what's actually happening. And I know a lot of people from the guild and Tribe of Dragons would be really upset if they nerfed Hunter's Ally. Apparently, a lot of people love and rely on that. But
Well,
does
you build your
anybody use
team.
any of the other affinities that are the level 4? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, where's the.
I have Hunter's Ally and I have the one for the assassin. I
Do you
don't use the
remember
one for the
what the one
tank. I
for the
don't use.
assassin does?
I think
I'm
it's
looking it up
more.
right now,
I think
real
it's
quick.
more. It's more shields. It makes it harder to kill them.
Oh, they word Hunter's Ally different. I never recognized that. It says when casting active skills. They inflict the continuous damage for 4 seconds to targets they hit. Oh, I see. Wow, that is really OP. Let's look at the assassin one real quick because I was curious. I don't have any sprites that can host these, so I feel like that's probably why I'm not in the end game yet. When taking damage exceeding 10% of their max con, all assassins gain a 5-second shield equal up to 400% of their strength. That's really nice. So, speaking
Oh,
of.
and since
Huh?
assassins and the marksman want these affixes. Some people will give up on the assassin affix if they're just going to stick with marksman kind
Yeah.
of scenario. But I have them both because I count on both. For my second team, I have assassins. My main team, all about the marksman. And the one they have for tanks and warriors and mages really aren't that great.
Okay. And hey, you just brought up something that I'd kind of like to jump into. And sorry, I would go more on to sprites, but it's a part of the game. It's the whole reason why I'm not in the end game. And so it really ticks me off because you have to spend a lot of money to get your sprites over 10 stars. Like
Oh,
there's
absolutely.
no alternative way.
I'll say one thing to everybody out there that's free to play or a mild spender. Whenever they have a beast feed, first thing you do is you buy all the sprite shards out of that shop. Everything you earn goes to the sprite shard. It's the only place you're gonna get a maxed out draggy without having to drop a ton of money. Or whatever sprite they offer in
Oh.
there, have to buy them all out.
Okay, that's a really good tip, man. Because I haven't touched them at all, but I didn't know about that. I would have actually changed around all my spending in that event. Okay, thank you very much. That's
Oh, oh,
everybody that's listening. Take that into account. If you're cheap to play or you're free to play, if you want to break into the end game, that's going to probably be one of your only opportunities. Because I believe you can get 40 draggies in the least expensive shop with the biggest discount. What, maybe you can get 60 or 80 in the middle one, and then maybe 100 and something at the lowest one?
buy them all. Don't touch anything else until you get those locked down. If you
Okay.
look at Sprite bonds, right? Sprite bonds,
Yeah,
you're
let's check it
talking
out.
massive percentages, all your teams. So what separates the good from the great? It's the people who pay attention to the Sprite bonds and try to level them up wherever they can.
Nice. So, oh, whoa, yeah. So Sprite bonds are actually a serious percentage. And I'm guessing whenever you have it even higher, it does really well, huh?
Yeah, of course. So everyone should be very aware of these. If you're in the lower end and you want to grow your account, whoever pays attention and does their sprites, puts their money towards sprites, will have an advantage and grow faster.
And
But keep in mind, if you grow
would you
too quickly,
recommend the three for the Draggy bond? So that would be Bolko, the epic wolf looking one, and then Draggy. Would you suggest that players focus on those three then?
but you're going to focus on Draggy because the Draggy shards are always in so far.
Okay.
And focus on Bulko because he's the best sprite. He's the most important sprite. And then when you're going with the basic epic sprites, you'll get shards for the bear, that fox creature, and the horse, regardless. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Whenever you're using eggs, you're gonna get the shards for them.
Okay, okay.
But leave,
Man, that's really good advice. I wish we would have had this interview a little bit earlier. What about this tenacious wall? Do you know what level your bond bonus is based off your sprite levels?
I don't really pay attention too much. I care about the raw stats.
Oh, okay. You're just
Oh,
focused on the raw stats. But honestly, that strength
Bulko,
resistance for tanks, if people run tanks, at level 3, it's 9% for the first 30 seconds, which is going to be a battle, basically. That's not horrible.
I maxed him. All right, he was pretty expensive, and then I had to max out the lucky. So those are the
Oh,
two
you
main
have a
sprites
max
that I have now.
lucky. Nice.
And then I also run the horse, the Pegasus. Those are the three sprites that I use.
Okay, here, let me go back in that real quick. Yeah, I want to look at these for different players here. So you run the Epic Horse, which is the Awakened Hipperin. I definitely run that because I really like the ability from it. And then you said you run Lucky, and what was your last one that you run?
It's Bulko.
And
Bulko,
Bolt.
Bulko. I never
Wait,
say his name right. I don't even know what he's supposed to be called.
wait. So you have your Bolko max, even though you have the seal from Lucky?
Yeah.
Because they both, their ability does the same thing, right? It prevents enemies from using their ultimate for the first 10 seconds.
Oh, but Lucky makes your offense really ramp up.
All enemies take 6% more damage from normal attacks and skills. When they are sealed, they take an additional 12%. Wow, additional 12% on top of that 6%. So just with a level 1, people are getting an additional 18% more damage from all their skills and normal attacks for the first 10 seconds. That is really good, man. I didn't even know that Lucky had that extra thing. I thought she was another seal and a bad ability. And then you haven't got rid of Bolko just because you have him maxed, and do you not have any of the other sprites maxed yet?
Well, no, his if you can't ult for 10 seconds versus the Bulko, why would you ever take him out? If I fight someone else that has it,
Because
and I don't.
Lucky offers the same seal. You technically don't need Bolko if you have Lucky on your team. Did you see that?
There's a condition for him to shut you down for ulting.
Seal prevents the use of ultimate skills. Enemies under control effects like stun and silence do not take increased damage. But basically, Lucky has the same Bolko effect, right? For the first 10
Well,
seconds, enemies can't use an ultimate.
you
So,
have to for on him on Lucky. You have to what, stun them for them to not be able to ult.
oh, no, no. It just says no matter what, it prevents the use of ultimate skills for they're sealed, just like Bolko for 10 seconds. But it says enemy under control effects like stun and silence don't take the increased damage from the first part of the skill. So here's my question to you. If you run Lucky without Bolko, Do you notice the enemies have the same icon over their heads for the first 10 seconds? They're sealed.
Yeah, I have not tried that. I also have the maxed out, bear, ox. I did really finish up the froggy. Maybe I'll play around and see if there's any difference.
Yeah, man, whenever you find out anything, let us know because that could be a really cool. I mean, if you could, I like Volko's second part of his ability other than his seal. The back row people do more damage, but I heard or I saw the new sprite look so awesome to me. I guess it's a little undead or something, awakened. Yeah, this little guy here, Rathan. And then, so if you were able to drop Bulko, granted, you probably don't want to spend money on another sprite, but
I've
triggers
definitely
for the first time at the 4 seconds into battle. All front row champions gain a permanent shield equal to 4.5 of their max constitution every 2 seconds. So all I have to say is imagine if you have Farouk on the front row. Imagine if you have the new Guardian Ignorath on the first row. So every 2 seconds, Ignorath is getting additional strength bonus. He's getting more shield to add on. And then every time that Farouk gets that shield, also, he's giving it to whoever's in position 5. And then of their max constitution, stacking up to 6 layers. Shield gain pauses when the limit's reached. When the shield is broken, it automatically restores if the limit is not reached. So basically, this sprite goes on the whole match, offering shields. And normally, if you have champions on the first 2 rows, they're going to be getting this shield knocked off pretty regularly. And so imagine dropping Bolko, having the seal from Lucky, using the awakened Hyperion, and then having this little guy here. Oh my God. Hey, I can dream, man. One day.
that
When it,
guy never going to see anything more than 10 stars on my roster.
oh
Too
really?
expensive. Well, think
Oh,
about it.
oh, to get
Do
the
the
new
you,
he's not even in the boxes yet.
you do the $30 convoke. Maybe you get it up to 4 or 5 stars. Maybe if you're lucky,
Yeah.
and then it's just oh my! I know people who have dropped 1,600 max out lucky when it first came out.
Oh
I
my
know
God.
people that I know people that have dropped over 1,200 to get Bulko over the course of when it first came out. At the third time it was released,
Wow.
$100 dropped, and they only go from 13 to 14. There's some really bad drop rates sometimes. But whenever
Oh
I look
my
at the Sprite
God.
situation, I got the Draghi for free because I always bought the shards out of the beast, right?
Yeah, super
But
smart on
it
your
was
part, by the way. That didn't even cross my mind. I can't believe I didn't do that.
and then the amount of money it cost to get at the lucky was I thought I got lucky on that one because I only spent about 600 on that one
Whoa.
in two different attempts.
Yeah,
But it's just too much money. Like I don't, and if even if I was to get that champion or that sprite maxed out, I still wouldn't be the best in the game, or wouldn't be able to hang with the best accounts in the game, and it's not worth it.
I hear what you're saying. If
So
you're going to drop that kind of money, you want to make sure it puts you in the top, whatever.
and that's the frustrating part of this game. There's such a power gap between different stages of players, and the community has been shrinking. So there's less people my size
Yeah.
for me to actually, have like a fun, spirited match with. It's either I'm crushing somebody or they're crushing me. There's like no in between, really.
And what would your recommendation to Goat Games be to balance that out a little bit more?
It's tough. I mean, they should really reduce cost at these Guardian champions. Maybe limit it to one per team, so you could only have one on a team. And then they really need to focus on making it easier to get Vigor still. I think Vigor is probably the worst thing that could happen to this game. I think the sprite bonds themselves is too much of a buff. I mean, if you look at someone's buffs just from getting the sprite bonds, it's just absurd. You can take an account that's a billion and ratchet it up to like 1.6,
Oh,
relatively
wow.
easily.
Just from the Sprite bonds.
If you look at your sprites and you look at the affixes, if you level up the affixes on a sprite you're never going to use, you get percentages. Everybody.
Right, right. And so question for you. That's a really good question for the listeners, the newer players, the older players. So I've kind of leveled up some of my sprites that I'm not using. Let's take this Awakened Kodiarch, for instance. So under the achievements, I have
Okay, so
gotten
right,
some of these, but so are you saying it's worth it to spend some of
I'm
the
saying
training things to like get them to
that
have mythic abilities and stuff?
whenever it's going to reset, right? Before it resets, you make sure you use every roll that's at least one, maybe two, until it goes up a level. Because if you get all his traits to mythic, you get big bonuses for that.
Yeah, let's look at that real
Once you
quick.
once you get it once you get it to legendary, it gives you a 0.5%. Once you get it to mythic, it gives you a full percent. And then if you check the sprite bonds, well, if you do the three of them and you get them up together, you're talking about jumping up even more percentage.
So what percentage do you think you've gained? And this applies to all your champions, right? What with the bonds and then by maxing some of the trained abilities, what percentage do you think you gain from all that? I think it actually tells us,
At least,
doesn't it, under the buffs up here?
you get at least 1.5% by taking it up, because you get a 0.5% for making it legendary. You get another percent mythic, and then and if you check your sprite bonds, that's how you move the sprite bonds up, and then that's even more percent.
Wow. So it is completely worth it to come in and train, at least like you said, with 1 or 2 points, just to get these guys to some BS mythic ability, right?
100%, absolutely.
Oh man. See, this I'm learning a lot from this interview. This is wonderful because for
You just
instance,
got
like this weird guy, like I haven't even like even some of the weak guys, like some of these ones, the just the rare ones, I haven't been doing that because I didn't know if it was worth it in the scheme of things. But
hold on those ones, on those three original ones,
yeah,
they're not worth as much because there's no sprite bond to them. But when you take each one of those to mythic, a percentage point added to the stats.
and every little bit you can get, and 1 percentage point whenever you're dealing with 34 million strength is quite a bit.
And if I'm not mistaken, that the bonuses you get from these sprites don't really affect your might power on some of these, because and that'll help you keep in a lower valley, catch up to that one player, take him out, the one who's sandbagging, so he stays in a lower lobby than he should be in.
Yeah, that's POW.
How? So
Yeah.
Pow is your mortal enemy in this game.
Pow is my rival. Pow is my mortal enemy. I have declared it. We talk civil sometimes, but I was never a fan of what Pow was doing. And then Pow would bully people, and of course I had to call him or her out on that. And then all of a sudden we would talk normally and actually get along. So it's a really love-hate relationship. Hey, so do you have a mortal enemy? Do you have a rival in this game? That's a good question.
My original rival faked his own death. Player name Arius. Long gone. I think he quit after season 5 of Conquest.
Wait. Did you say Daenerys?
Oh no, Arius.
Oh, Arius. Okay. And
But that was my, I guess, in-game mortal enemy.
that's funny.
After that, the next player that I had massive problems with, that account and that player is banned from the game or chargebacks.
Who was that?
Rather not you
Oh,
rather not
okay,
talk
no
about them.
problem. And then here's a question for you because you might know the answer. Does Kitty still play this game?
That's what I was talking about.
Oh, oh, there was the chargeback thing. Okay, because I knew like you would bring up Kitty, and Kitty's been in some of your videos and stuff. So I was wondering the relationship you had with her, kind of thing.
Well, I don't mind losing to somebody who's playing the game like fairly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you find out that they're spending all this money and they're charging it back at the end of the month, or and I mean that's just like you're committing credit card fraud to beat an online video game.
Oh, it's completely ridiculous. There's no reason anyone should do it. And all the fame and notoriety from winning number one in the Luxus tournament and like everybody, like people, you could be a jerk player, but you're gonna have a lot of respect if you're one of the top players. For some reason, people that are just learning the game or mid-tier, they really idealize some of these players that are the top end players, but honestly, some of the things I've noticed as a mid-tier player, now that I'm in the Asylum second guild, the Black Gate, I notice most of these players aren't very strategic. Most of these players don't have great synergies or trait placements. Like most of them literally just spent money and they overpower people. They use the meta. There's nothing special about these players. And in fact, I'll talk to some of them in Discord and they know way less about this game than I do. But because they forked up a couple $1,000, they're up there in the top end game while I'm stuck in the middle tier, even though I feel a lot of my gameplay is really advanced. And
Well,
so,
this game doesn't. They don't reward theory crafting in this game. If like I said, I respect the grind. I play multiple accounts. I don't miss dailies. I make sure if there's something free to get, each one of my accounts gets it. And whatever
nice.
money I spend has to be spent to keep up. But whatever I get for free is a bonus.
Yeah, yeah.
But because this game doesn't really have spending caps, it'll let a play. Why should somebody spend an hour dungeon and put in and getting the jigsaw puzzle filled? They could just drop $50 and call it a day, you know?
Oh, exactly.
And
Exactly.
and that's one of the problems with Go Games. And I remember one of my buddies, Gorilla, he was playing this game and he complains that they don't sell enough roses. It used to be you could only buy a certain amount every month. Then he complained about it, so they raised the amount you can buy. He bought them all, and then his account at the time grew so much faster than everybody else's. It kind of screws up, the balance. Right
Totally.
now, this game doesn't have enough balance. Too many people have quit. There's not enough players. And the power spreads are too big.
With that
And
being
that's where you
said, could you please let everybody know why do you continue to play this game?
well, again, I'll always say it's the people that I've met. You've seen I have a server D53.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people are on the voice calls at night. Some people weren't even in the guild. They join the call, they hang out. And it's more like more about having fun with the people. And honestly, even when you're getting your ass kicked in this game, if you're losing with your friends, it's better than winning with your enemies, I guess.
Yeah, I
So
like that.
you
That's a
take
good way
you
to
take
put
it
it.
in stride. Like right now, my guild is stuck in a rut because we're not big enough to be the best, and we're significantly stronger than like I'm obviously a top five guild,
Oh yeah.
and if you're not one of those top five, you don't stand a chance. And it's not even close. And when we go, all out versus the Asylum's main guild, even
Hmm.
close there either. They have too many giant accounts. Yeah, so that's where it gets kind of like, all right, Go Games, what are you doing to fix Conquest? Because I have to fight in the 1-2-3 match, constantly fighting the same guild over and over again. I couldn't beat them last week. What makes you think I'm going to beat them this week? And the people that I am playing, I can beat, they don't stand a chance either. So it's no balance, and that's something that Go Games needs to really actually work on.
And you
You have to
see
figure out a
this,
way.
you see the same teams all the time in Guild Conquest?
Yeah, I fight. D53 fights in the 1, 2, 3. Probably 2 out of every 4 matches.
Oh man. And every time
Oh,
you
you're
do
checking out.
play, everybody goes really hard. They drop their resources. They stay up whenever they should be sleeping. They really push it
Uh,
hard
no,
still.
no, not like they used to. 'Cause if you can't win, you can't win, right?
Right,
Me
right,
moving around and being more active isn't going to get me the win, and there's no point in doing that.
right, right. And why
You,
wouldn't it get you the
you,
win if you're just more? Isn't that how Guild Conquest works? Or can people just sit on certain nodes and completely ruin the game for everybody?
not that they're ruining the game. It's just if you can't kill them, you can't kill them, and you can't expect somebody you're fighting to constantly keep their account moving, and get around the map, and force them to play more. You play to win.
Right. So, if you could change anything with Guild Conquest, what would you change? Have you thought about that?
I would definitely have. Not a question of changing something in Guild Conquest. More about changing how they sell things to the player base. They if you're going to come out with something, don't make it so powerful that once the other person gets it, you can't stop them. Enough with the multipliers. Everything's a multiplier. How about just slow it down? Let everybody catch up. It's about the same size, and then introduce new game modes that require a fuller roster. Ooh, now
Uh,
this season, this round,
yeah,
I had to stay up all night. I called in sick to play this round.
you did. That's funny. And right now, Autumn's one of your main crew, right?
Yeah, she's the leader of D53.
Oh, nice. I didn't know she was running the ship there. So, do most of these players in the rankings here, do they still play, or have most of these people left?
Out of that original batch, who's number 4 in that
Number
list?
4 was Wishmaster.
Still plays. Autumn still plays. I still play. Ghost Wolf retired, and I have his account. And everybody else pretty much is gone. Alan on there. He still plays. He
Okay.
plays very casually.
And have you spoken to Al-Anon recently with the work or life game balance? Is Al-Anon much happier being more of a casual player?
Oh, just because he's a casual player in this game doesn't mean he's gaming any less. He bought a new PlayStation, and he and that's where he's putting his time and money.
Oh, okay. And do you play any other games or do you mostly just stick with Bloodline?
I can't afford any other games, and I had to quit smoking to play this game.
Did you ever get in any RPGs or what kind of games did you play as you were growing up or whenever you were, a young adult? What did you like to get into?
But whenever I played games like this, before I played Bloodlines, I played Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes for about 3 years.
Okay.
And before that, I played Game of Thrones Ascent for about 2 years. Then before that, I used to play a game called Ebony Age 2. It was a
Okay.
browser game.
Yeah.
I played that for about 3 years, and that game was ruthless. You had to run bots. You had to find people to cover your account at night or when you were at work.
Oh, because you would
Yeah,
miss
it was
out
just
on
ruthless.
stuff? Or why did you have to do that?
You could zero somebody out. Like you could take out a player and destroy whole account. Months to build and get wiped out in a day if you're not careful.
Whoa. God, talk about risk and reward. Jeez, that game's intense, man.
Yeah, so you had to find you had to find people you could trust, let them have access to your account, and it was a pretty intense.
Oh, jeez, that's intense. And
And
do you feel like you have the most balance and you enjoy Bloodline the most out of all those? Or if any of those were
no, no, no.
recreated in a modern reboot, would you jump back over to them?
The best one I played was the Ebony H2,
Okay.
mainly because it had so many more players and there was actual consequences. So if you had a problem with another player, you would try to destroy their whole account. So they leave the game and leave the server. And there was enough players where you wouldn't miss a rival. And they had an active world chat where people were threatening each other in the world chat, and and there were actual things you could take off somebody else's account that were
Oh,
like a
wow.
trophy.
That's intense, man. It reminds me the original EverQuest when it came out. If you were playing on a PvP server, you could actually loot items from the people you killed. You could camp them. It was cutthroat, man. Like games aren't like that anymore. I feel like a lot of games now cater to a lot of Care Bears, people that don't realize, hey, there's risk to this game.
Oh yeah, 100%. This game, one of the guys I was friends with named Hollywood was trolling at player areas in the world in the chat in the conquest chat, right? He
Yeah.
kept making fun of him. He reported him, and he got banned for like a week out of being able to talk in the conquest
Whoa.
chat. Yeah, so
Jeez.
if you complain about somebody, if you pick on somebody in this game, doesn't matter how big you are. If you pick on them and they report you, they'll silence your account for a week or two.
Oh man, I didn't realize that. I normally don't pick fights with people. I guess I kind of pick fights with Pal, but I don't like to just call names. Even though instead of Pal, I like to call them either POS, Ace, who was playing my account while I was out, called him P2W. So that's kind of funny. I kind of like that. But hey, what would get you to quit this game? If they don't change the Guardian thing where you can only have one per team, if they release a lot more Guardians in the near future just as a money grab, would anything like that cause you to either step away and play it more casually or reduce the number of accounts? Or is there anything they can actually do to like get you to say, hey, I'm done with this?
No, it's not the game that would make me quit. It all comes down to whatever happens on the D53 server. As
Okay,
long as there
so
are
if
people there,
your friends left, then you'd be like, I'm going with them.
if the server was dead and there was no calls at night, and there was nobody talking, and there was no more community, then there's no point in playing.
Okay,
I play
I
because
like
the
that.
people that are in my guild are part of a small community of players. We've all grown to become very close friends, and we've never met. I've never met most of these people that
That's
are
what I
on
was
the
going to
server.
ask you if you
Maybe
met
talk.
anybody IRL yet.
No, but again, I feel like you know them. When something happens in their life that's actually real, they tell you. You share things, and then when you're bored or lonely, you're able to just hit up a person on the other side of the country and get distracted from whatever's going on in the real world that might be causing you some stress. And I've seen people get stressed out over the game way too much when they shouldn't. But, people get hot headed. They want to win. Sometimes they get confused at the real world and the Lithas world. Sometimes they kind of blend together,
Yeah.
and people get, and you can see it. You've seen people get into fights in the different servers over things that just aren't really important.
And so before we kind of wind this up, because we have awesomely gone over an hour, um, what would be your advice to someone just starting the game? And what would be your advice to an experienced player that's been around for a year or more?
Well, I don't know if I would. I don't know the future of this game to suggest new players start if unless they're completely segregated from us.
Yeah.
With a whole new freshman class of players that aren't going to see me for at least a year, year and a half.
Yeah.
That way they can build their own community, their own guilds, their own culture without having to worry about some giant sandbagging like the lower nails and sabers and just winning everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know what I would say to a young player. Also, there's so many things in this game right now. I wouldn't even know how to start if I had to start over. Do I have to get roses for vigor? Do I have to focus on the runes? I don't know. Am I going to buy sprites? But if I have the sprites without the vigor, multipliers won't work correctly. Celestial bonds are through the roof. I get the clan traits to 22 out of the gate. I don't even know anymore. I mean, if you asked me to make a video with you on how to start a new account, I don't even know what I would do. I'm lost in 16 directions on what has to get done.
People have asked to do a newbie videos kind of thing, and I would love to do it, but honestly, I'm just like you. I'm in the same boat. I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean, focus on accumulating diamonds and using them properly. That's all I can really suggest.
Or
But
get
hey, I
diamonds
gotta
and wait.
say, people, I'm super thankful for your advice on the sprites and the bonds and on Draggy for a cheap to play player. Now, the last thing I want to know though, the people more in the mid tier range, like Hades or Veritas and people like that, who are working and are spending money to kind of get to the end game, would you, what about any advice to them? What about game and life balance? What about finding a good community for you, not focusing and taking it so seriously about the game? What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, I'm not going to give life advice, but I will say this: for a mid-sized player,
Hmm.
don't be so quick to grow your account. The faster you grow your account, the faster you run in players like me. And there's not enough space in between us. So once you end up going to a higher VOC, you might get stuck where you have no shot of winning anything. Now the game becomes completely tedious as you'll go and join VOC. You can't beat anybody. You go into sales, you upgrade your guild, and you go into sales and sabers, and now you can't beat anybody. Those are the things you have to worry about. The faster you grow, the faster you run into the monsters at the top.
And
So I would
I
say
think
enjoy where
that
you are.
that's affecting me right now, actually. I wish I would have gotten your advice earlier. The problem is I grow my account really slow because I don't have the money to do it fast. And so I focus on every little detail and I try to be as efficient as I can with what I have. But with the matchmaking, how they have it and how everything's set up, I feel like I'm falling behind because I'm not spending money. And so it is very frustrating and it's discouraging because Valley is my favorite game mode that there is. And when I play it now and everybody is almost double my might for my teams, it is very frustrating. So I do like that advice. Like focus and make different teams, play with different synergies. If there's a champ that you want, get the champ you want. Just because it's not in the meta doesn't mean that it's a bad champion. So I'm a firm believer of that too.
I just want everybody kind of band together and start demanding real content, new content. It's not trash. When they had that farming event, I felt like they spit in my face. Like I've spent so much
Oh,
money on your game. Every week I spend at least $50 on your game. And you're telling me you want to charge me $5 auto plant my seeds and then spend another $50 just to be able to get to the auto fertilizer and auto plant? I mean, are you kidding me? I don't want to play Farmville. This is a war game. Now, even if you look at the beast feed, right? Why is there a cooking in the middle of a hero champion collection
it's
fishing event?
ridiculous.
They say fishing is coming back for Christmas, I was told by Benson, the VIP liaison.
Yeah.
So save your gems. Fishing's coming back. But again, why does the Gordon's fisherman, a guy wearing a 50s style fisherman suit with a modern boat, is fishing? How is that? What does that have to do with the Bloodlines Heroes of Lithas?
Yeah, what's it got to do
Why
with
is there a fisherman?
combat? What's it got to do with like the hereditary benefits and
Story?
traits? Like it's a stupid game mode.
Yeah, and then what kills me is that there are players who love it and they love the beast feast, but they don't love the beast. They don't love the fishing event. They love the prizes and they love the rewards.
Yep,
Why
it's
can't we get an
got the
actual fun event where, yeah, the rewards are a nice bonus, but it's actually fun to play? And that's what Goat Games has not provided. me. There's no new game modes that are actually fun. It's like if the rewards are good enough, people will do them, and people will be excited about them. But what they don't understand, if the rewards are good, they're good for everyone. So if everyone plays the event, no one's really getting ahead of the guy they're competing against.
Yeah. That's so if Goat Games ever offered you a job to like give them ideas how they could make the game better, would you potentially take them up on that?
Well, they wouldn't hire me because I'm not a programmer. But
Yeah, yeah, good
I would
point.
just say to the people at Goat Games, go play Star Wars Galaxy Heroes, go play Raid Shadow Legends, go play Marvel Strike Force, all Hero Collection games, and steal or copy some of their game modes, that require a larger roster. And they have game modes in those type of games. It's almost PVE using or fighting against your enemy's roster. So if two guilds are going to fight in those kind of games, they're fighting the other guy's roster in a PvP scenario. A stationary map populated with defenders. Your guild has to clear the map. Everyone has to use a certain amount of teams for offense, a certain amount of teams. They start incorporating things like that. People have to spend more money on developing all the other teams. Like the Ignis will never see the light of day again because I don't need to have right now 20 teams of five ready to go. I
Right,
just need
right.
three teams of five. And that's what they need. That's what they should be doing is checking out some of the other hero collection games that have been around for 5 to 10 years that are still going strong and borrow their events the same way they borrow the artwork from Blizzard Entertainment. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I see what you said. Man, that's actually really good advice. And all it would take is for a couple developers to pick these up and just see what's going on, what people enjoy. And the sad part is though, it's a money making thing, not I mean, do they actually enjoy that people like the game, like certain aspects of the game, or is it all just a money grab? It's kind of a sad scenario if you ask me, because I feel this game has the potential to be played a lot worldwide. But whenever it comes down to this, hey, we got to find a few whales and keep milking those whales, it really destroys the game for all the other regular players, you know?
I feel like I'm playing somebody in chess when I play this game,
Hmm.
and the other guy gets to add a new piece on the board every two. And it's like, okay, at what point do I even want to play anymore? The guy just gave himself another queen.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a really
it's
good analogy, man. And
and then that's the frustrating challenge of playing this. It's laggy, right? Power gap is too big between the top end and the middle, right?
yeah,
Average player has no shot at beating a top end player in
yeah.
Conquest. And
Even if
Conquest is
even
the
if
premier
they're
game mode.
playing hard for a long period, they have no chance to catch up unless you drop like thousands of dollars.
Right, and that's not even fun because even if you do drop thousands of dollars, how many players have dropped thousands of dollars to get to that size? 20? Is
Yeah.
20 big giant whales all close in power enough to make the game actually competitive?
And
And it's
they're
not 20.
losing players all the time, right?
Well, yeah, think about it. If and when Gorilla and Ghost Wolf walked away, they maxed out the three original sprites, right? The horse, the bear, the fox.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, after they maxed them out, it came out with a new sprite and the selection chests. So Ghost Wolf and Gorilla kept buying eggs and through the luck of the draw getting things they couldn't use. Extra shards for the Hyperbion that you can't use. And they're
Right.
spending all this money, finally max out the sprite. They got all these extras sitting that they can't do anything with. And then they come out with those selection chests. So people can have 15-star sprites for like one-third the money that those two spent. And then they were like,
Oh,
screw this, we're done.
dang. That
Gorilla's like, I have 6,000 eggs waiting for the next sprite. And these eggs can't I can't get them with the eggs.
Wow, I never even thought about that. And speaking of items that we get that we can't use, like I just pulled up my inventory right now, and for a long time there was the companion gift boxes that they didn't have an alternative for. But there's a lot of things that we max out and we never use again. And they just sit in inventory or we never use them. And it is, for instance, here's a big one: skill books. Like, why was there never anything introduced where you could trade up and down skill books, you know? Like, that would have been really nice. Like, for instance, look at this right here, my Bloodcraft Legend. And I know some of these are used for the Guardians, but I have 4,000 of the legendary skill books for Bloodcraft, and those will just be pointless in my inventory. Or think of the
Oh, yeah.
common books, the regular Bloodcraft, the blue ones. Those are so pointless. So if there was a way to
Look at
trade up or to trade down, even at a big penalty, that would be really beneficial.
well, for me, gold is completely useless.
Oh,
I got like 20,000 chests
yep,
of the hour chests, and
yeah,
so I don't need gold. And then they gave people compensation, gold chests. Like, no one needs it.
yeah. What sense does that make for anybody? In fact, most mid-tier people have maxed out and they have all the gold they need. So they have so many of these chests, and it's like those are basically just worthless, basically. I
And
know
it's a
they
pain in the ass to
tried
open
with
up.
one of the events where we had the camps and you attacked people and they would get the bubbles. And then I think at that time you could spend some gold to get some of the items, but it was such a small amount of gold. It didn't even put a dent in all the gold that I have. And so
Yeah,
I feel they just set it and forget it for a lot of things. And they just become completely worthless. So that's something else I'm really annoyed with. Like, for instance, what the heck are these things? These ranking points that I got from the last Guardian event. Like, are these going to be applied to the next Guardian event? Like, what's going
well,
on? What's going on with this?
I guess you'll start off with a small lead. And
Hey, that would be a nice big old lead, but the question is, will they apply it? I don't think they did in the last one either. Not to mention,
you
hey,
mentioned
with the new divine crystals and the leveling up in the divine sanctuary, look how much divine essence I have. When will I ever need this?
I find the biggest ripoff with the Divine Sanctuary, and again, we don't need any more power ups, so I don't know why they introduced is those keys are so goddamn expensive. I don't want to have to spend $250 or $300 to unlock one key.
Not
Yeah,
to
to get that
mention,
third
it
one,
grows each time you
yeah,
unlock.
it's little things like that really kind of break my heart for this game. Because I don't want, no one should have to spend that kind of money to go over level 700. You have all this gold. Let us use the gold and make it really expensive or gold heavy. Go up. Make it
Yeah,
where my
yeah.
district actually matters. Where what happens in the district has real value.
Yeah, districts are completely pointless at this point in the game, aren't they?
Well, think about it. If you don't need gold, then who cares about what the district is doing?
Yeah. The only time you
You
ever
know,
need it is just when there's the district challenge to get a potential spot, you know?
and the district rewards aren't even that great where it's worth even. You're better off saving everything for when you actually need it, or just use. I just don't even understand. Look at first place for the district challenge. What is that? Nothing.
Oh yeah. I mean, you get a little outfit, but that's about it. And they didn't increase the rewards with how the game is going. So look at these. You get 16 of these gold tokens. 16 gold tokens doesn't do anything.
Nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, these are the
so
little things. This is the stuff that Goat Games doesn't bother to improve, that they really should have improved. And you mentioned that event with the bubble. I think that was one of the that caused a lot of grief. A lot of people got pissed. And that farming event, everybody over the top.
Oh, the farming event. And honestly, if it wasn't the rewards for the fishing event, it's one of the most ridiculous things ever. Like you just make a macro and send it to town, but you don't do anything. You don't fight. You don't do anything.
You fish,
So,
fish. Here's the thing. I don't use macros because technically that's like crossing that's like getting into the bot territory.
yeah.
I have an auto clicker with the number
Yeah.
right in the perfect spot. And I use a weight. Hold down the number one key. So
That's funny, man. Like one of the the
technically I
the, the
don't use the
dippy
macro,
birds
right?
to come down.
Yep.
Dang. But yeah,
But
and
think about it. People had to get an auto clicker to do fishing.
oh yeah, it's you shouldn't have to do that. If you're doing that for a game, then there's something wrong with that game.
When Beast Feast came out, I refaced a bunch of people from my guild
Yeah.
onto contestants from Iron Chef, and
Okay.
then I had Autumn 12 do a voiceover talking about game of talking about Lithas and Bloodlines. I posted it. No one got it. I couldn't believe it. I was heartbroken. Like I put like 3 hours into this deal, and no one knows it. Someone's like, "Why are you posting images of these guys cooking?" I'm like, "Don't you
Oh.
see the like I'm showing the squid dish, and I got a player's face on a guy handling a giant fucking octopus."
Yeah, yeah. Man, your videos are amazing. You're very clever in your videos. I like them.
They're short. Only a handful of people really see them, but your channel's kind of taken off, getting a couple hundred views per video.
Yeah, trying to get it up there, trying to help people where I can. And man, I think these interviews too are really going to go a long way. So the plan is to get some more high-end players. Maybe I'll grab some mid-tier players as well because there's some that have some amazing teams. Have you ever met the player Bria, Bria?
I have not.
Okay, when
I
she
know
was
this.
closer to my level, man, her teams were amazing. And so, like, maybe grabbing some people like that to do some interviews so that they can give some tips and tricks, kind of like you have. I think that's going to be the goal of the interview series here.
But interviews are great too, but also people love to have their account. Like I remember when Rage Panda started taking off, he wanted to do something on the new Bloodcraft, and I had the Bloodcraft, so I told him, like, "Can you send me some images of it?" I'm like, "Why don't you just log on to my account, then you can play it." And then he makes like this little trailer that he's going to be on the ROM account, and then everybody wanted their account reviewed after that, and it was just like funny and
Oh.
amazing. And Gorilla wanted his account reviewed, and then he didn't do it. He did Neo Geo instead. I think Gorilla got all mad.
Dang, I didn't even see the episode where he reviewed your account. That's really cool. So yeah, maybe
I didn't get the I
if
didn't get
you
the
would
review.
be
I got
up. Oh, go ahead.
I didn't get a review. He didn't review my account. He went on my account and showed off what the Bloodcraft could do. Then while he was on there, he was looking at stuff over, and then I told him, "Listen, I can get players for you, and then you could bigger accounts that people are interested in. You could review them." Then he did Neo. Then he did like a lottery to see whose account would get done next,
Yeah.
and like, people liked it. But then he had the falling out, with Go Games, and then kind of just fell off the map.
Well, I was wondering if they introduced the Panda Clan, just like I was curious if they released Romulus based on you, if they released the Panda Clan kind of based on him.
Uh, I think the Panda Clan was a blatant ripoff of World of Warcraft 3. Or
Oh,
Warcraft 3.
yep.
I feel like that's where they steal their artwork from.
Totally was. I mean, it would be great if they make a gnome clan. I really think it would be fun to have levitation. And so a cool new mechanic would be whenever anyone's up in the air or knocked airborne, hit the passive would trigger, which would kind of be like magic missiles or fireworks. And so maybe you could deal with some of those old people that have knock up that nobody uses anymore. And by the way, that would be great too. If some clans that just it's not a big enough moneymaker for them. If some of the old clans, if they revamped them, maybe even reintroduced them as the new clan, but like there's some clans like the Luxuriant. They had some cool ideas for some of the old clans, but because they're just so worthless compared to the newer meta and the newer release champs, nobody uses them anymore. It would be really cool if there was some way that the developers could reintroduce the clans, and of course, if they could make their darn money off of it. But I think that that would
That's
be
what
great.
I just think if they took that concept of a giant map where you had to put teams on defense,
Yeah,
you had to actually fill the map, you would be forced to use some of these older champs. And then guilds would have to strategically fill up certain zones, certain comps. And then that's where Go Games failed as a game, as they wanted to get players to overspend, make their main team OP,
yeah,
instead of spending consistently on all their champions and reward the biggest, most balanced roster.
yeah. Yeah, that's it's a shame, but hopefully if they happen to watch this interview, maybe they'll really take some of this stuff to heart and realize that hey, some of these experienced members like yourself have some really good ideas that could help them save their game in the scheme of things.
The way things are going now, I have a bad feeling that if the game does continue, it's going to continue without the legacy players. 'Cause I can't, being in the top OC and being in the top conquest, it's not competitive anymore. It's pretty much already written on who's going to win what and how it's going to play out.
Yep. It takes a lot out of the game. It doesn't give people motivation. And the social aspect is great, but when that whole social group ends up leaving the game, that's when GOAT really is going to start seeing some downfall. So it would be smart if they would start listening to some of their players' ideas. And why not be like Apple or Google? They allow people to develop apps for them basically. Why wouldn't a gaming company listen to their players and find out how they could sync that with making money so that everyone's happy in the long run? It just, I don't know, call it laziness. Maybe they're not very creative in the end of the day. Maybe their developers aren't really that capable. Maybe all their good developers left and we just never hear about it. But either way, man.
I think they,
Huh?
I think they, all honesty, they purchased an old game and they reskinned it. So it's almost like everything they try to do is going to be a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
So they have to make it work with what they have, and I think that might be the sad reality to why things are so. I feel like everything works on like 3.5, like 3.5 in it. They can't break that formula.
Yep, yep. Oh man.
Uh,
Well, hey, with players like you in the game, at least there's some current hope. And with that, man, I'm really excited that you joined me for this interview. Hopefully, we can do a follow-up interview soon because there's a lot of other things I want to discuss with you. But I feel like we tapped a lot and we've gotten a lot of insight. And hopefully, this series ends up turning out something helpful to not only other players but also the developers. So, hey man, thanks so much for joining me. I think we're gonna call it here because we're already at almost 100 or sorry, an hour and 40 minutes. But it was a pleasure to have you here with me today, Romulus.
Oh, thank you for having me. And Elenia, you're gonna have to listen to the whole thing to catch the curse words. I know how much you love my voice.
I love it, and they're probably gonna stay in there. But all right, man. Have a good night, and thanks again.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you
see
for
ya.
having me.